My name is Emily Carter. I'm 31 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. For most of my life, I believed family was the one place where you never had to prove yourself. I was wrong. My younger brother Ryan had always been treated like the golden child. When I got good grades, my parents said, "That's what you're supposed to do." When Ryan passed one difficult class, Dad bought him a new car. When I got my first job, Mom asked how much I was making. When Ryan's small business failed, Dad told everyone he was simply taking a risk. I rarely complained, but my grandmother Eleanor noticed everything. She was the one person who never compared me to Ryan. She once told me, "People sometimes confuse being quiet with being weak." I remembered those words for years. When Grandma passed away, I thought losing her would be the hardest thing I'd ever experience. I was wrong again. 3 weeks after her funeral, my mother called me. Her voice sounded strangely calm. "Emily, your father and I made a decision about Grandma's estate." I sat down at my kitchen table. "Okay." She paused before saying, "Your brother is going to receive the estate." I stared at the wall. "The whole estate?" "Most of it," she replied. Grandma wanted Ryan to have the house, the investments, and the business account. I didn't argue, but something inside me felt wrong. I knew Grandma. She had never treated Ryan like he was more deserving simply because he was her grandson. A week later, we all went to an estate meeting at a law office downtown. My parents arrived with Ryan, and they were smiling like the outcome had already been decided. Ryan even wore an expensive watch I had never seen before. He looked at me and said, "Guess Grandma really loved me." Dad laughed. She always knew who was going to carry the family forward. I stayed quiet. Then the attorney, Mr. Bennett, opened a folder. "I understand there has been some confusion regarding Mrs. Eleanor Carter's estate." My mother quickly said, "There's no confusion. We've already discussed the distribution." Mr. Bennett looked at her. "You discussed a distribution. You did not see the final estate plan." The room became silent. He placed a document on the table. "This is the document your grandmother signed 9 days before her passing." Dad leaned forward. "That can't be right." Mr. Bennett continued. "Mr. Carter receives no direct inheritance." Ryan's smile disappeared. "You're saying I get nothing?" The lawyer shook his head. "Not exactly." Then he looked directly at me. "Emily is the sole trustee." I couldn't breathe. My mother stared at me. "Did you know about this?" "No," I whispered. Mr. Bennett handed me a letter from Grandma. My hands were shaking as I opened it. She had written, "Emily, if you're reading this, then I've already left you. I'm sorry you have to discover the truth this way. I know your parents will tell you Ryan deserves everything because he is the son, but I have watched you work for every opportunity, while others were handed theirs. I am not giving you this estate because you are my favorite. I am giving you responsibility because I trust you." Tears filled my eyes. Then I read the final part. "Do not use this trust to punish anyone. Use it to protect what I spent my life building." That was when I understood. Grandma hadn't left me nearly $4 million just to make me wealthy. She had trusted me to protect everything she had built. The next morning, my father came to my apartment. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't congratulate me. He simply said, "You need to fix this." I told him, "I can't." He replied, "You're the trustee." I said, "Exactly." He told me Ryan had already made plans. He had already chosen a luxury home, discussed business investments, and told his friends he was about to become wealthy. Then Dad accidentally revealed something important. "We thought Grandma had changed the will years ago." I asked, "Who told you that?" He looked away. "Your mother." I immediately called Mr. Bennett. He confirmed that before Grandma died, someone had tried to pressure her into changing her trust. She had refused and documented everything. I spent that night going through her records, and that's when I found emails between my mother and Grandma. My mother had repeatedly asked Grandma to transfer investment accounts to Ryan. Grandma refused every time. In one message, Mom had written, "Ryan needs this more than Emily ever will." Grandma's response was simple. Need is not the same as entitlement. I read those words again and again. For years, my family had made me feel like Ryan's needs mattered more than mine. Now I finally understood what Grandma had been protecting. A week later, Ryan came to my office. He didn't apologize. He simply said, "Give me access to the accounts." I told him no. He accused me of being jealous and said I had always thought I was better than him. I opened a folder and said, "I know about the house you tried to purchase, I know about the business investment, and I know you planned to use Grandma's money before the estate was even settled." His face changed. "Who told you?" I replied, "Grandma's records." For the first time, Ryan looked afraid. I decided it was time for the whole family to hear the truth. I invited my parents and Ryan to Grandma's old house. I placed the trust agreement, financial records, and emails on the table. My mother stared at the documents. Dad looked at her and said, "You told me she wanted Ryan to have everything." Mom said nothing. Ryan looked at her and whispered, "You told me that too." I didn't shout. I didn't insult anyone. I simply read Grandma's final letter aloud. "Emily, protect the family business, protect the employees, protect the home, but don't destroy your family simply because they failed to understand your worth." My voice broke. I told them, "Grandma didn't want me to take revenge. She wanted me to stop letting people take advantage of me." The trust was worth nearly $4 million, but it wasn't simply cash. It included property, investments, and ownership interests in the family business. I followed Grandma's instructions. I protected the employees. I preserved the house. I kept the investments inside the trust, and I refused to give Ryan access to money that wasn't legally his. I didn't humiliate my parents. I didn't expose every private detail to our relatives. I simply established boundaries for the first time in my life. Months later, Ryan called me and said, "I need help." I expected him to ask for money, but he didn't. He said, "I want to start over. Do you know anyone hiring?" That moment changed how I saw him. I helped him find work outside the family business, not because he deserved Grandma's estate, but because Grandma had taught me that strength doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means knowing where your responsibility ends. Almost a year after Grandma died, I returned to her house and sat on the porch where she had once told me that being quiet didn't make me weak. I opened her letter again. One sentence stood out. "You cannot control how people value you. You can only control whether you believe them." For years, I had believed my parents when they treated Ryan like he was more important. I believed them when they called my achievements ordinary. I believed them when they told me to accept less because we were family. Grandma changed that. She didn't make me powerful. She reminded me that I already had a voice. I just had to use it. Today, the family trust is still active. The business is doing well. The employees Grandma cared about are still there. And the money she worked so hard to protect is being managed exactly as she requested. My relationship with my parents is different now. We're not a perfect family, and some wounds don't disappear simply because the argument ends. But I no longer sit at the table hoping someone will finally choose me. I choose myself. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Being overlooked doesn't mean you're worthless. Sometimes people don't recognize your value because they've become comfortable with you accepting less. Don't spend your whole life begging people to see what you already know about yourself. Build your life, protect your peace, and when the moment comes to speak, speak with the truth. Because sometimes, the person everyone underestimated is the person who was quietly holding the key to everything all along.